Do you really?
Sincerely. What's that?
You claim to only believe in baptism of desire for catechumens.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so do you support or think certain groups are Catholic? Do you think there are any Catholic groups? Do you think the CMRI is Catholic?
I'm questioning that at this point. I think they are. I don't...
No, but you seem to indicate to me that you believe that these priests were traditional guides and so forth. Isn't that not correct? That's what you said?
I believe that Bishop Pavronis at this point is Catholic.
Okay, he believes...
I have read nothing yet from talking to him, and anything that he's written, I have yet to see him teach heresy or adhere to heresy.
Their whole group, all of them believe that baptism of desire applies to people who don't even believe in Christ. All of them believe that. Every single one of them. That's a fact. They all believe that Jews who reject Christ can be saved. Bishop McKenna said that explicitly. Okay.
He's not a member of the CMRI.
Well, no, but he believes the same thing. They've printed his articles. They carried his article in the Reign of Mary. Okay?
Okay.
They carried an article called The Salvation of Those Outside the Church. Word for word contrary to the dogma. Outside the church, there's no salvation. And the whole explanation is how people who are not actually Catholic can be saved. They all believe that. Baptism of desire for every, quote, traditional priest pretty much today, it means salvation for Buddhists, Jews, Hindus, that it's possible. So they're all complete heretics.
How is that possible?
How is what possible?
How is that possible? I don't get how that's possible. Not that they, I don't know if they've taught this or not. From everything of theirs I've read, I haven't seen that.
Of course they
do. I don't see how it's possible that a Buddhist can be saved or a Hindu can be saved outside the Catholic Church.
Well, he can't. He can't. But my point is that you cannot claim to only believe that unbaptized catechumens can be saved unless you also denounce all of the other groups, basically, who believe in baptism of desire as heretical.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Has the church ever taught anything on how are we to judge, let's say someone dies, right? Does the church tell us that we are supposed to explicitly say he went to hell or he went to heaven, or are we supposed to leave that to the judgment of God? I don't know the answer to this question, so that's why I'm asking it.
The church teaches that you must accept the truths of faith, okay,
right,
with belief. You must
right,
preach them, okay, and it declares that all who die as non-Catholics can be saved. And so, like, for instance, St. Francis Xavier, he was traveling on a ship with a pagan, and the pagan wouldn't hear them, and he died. And St. Francis Xavier said he cast his own soul into hell by refusing to join. And so he concluded, because he had faith, and he knew that he died outside the church, he was lost. He doesn't say we can't judge. The only that's a modernistic heresy. When people say we cannot judge, what they mean is we don't know who's saved. And that's heresy. Because God has revealed, the only question comes into whether there's an actual doubt about whether a person converted. And the church says that if there's no evidence in the external forum that the person converted, he's presumed to have died as he lived. And so, if there's no evidence that he converted, he's considered to have died. Now, it's possible that someone might have, gotten baptized and gone to a priest without us knowing, unless we were there at his deathbed.
Right.
So, but unless there's evidence of that, we don't presume it. But, so that's the point, that you can't defend baptism of desire today without also accepting, at least accepting, the idea that souls can be saved in false religions, unless you're going to be the only man on the planet who claims to believe in explicit baptism of desire today, and who also denounces every other group which believes in baptism of desire, because they all believe that Buddhists, Hindus, and Jews can be saved. Like, you familiar with Bishop Sanborn?
Yes, I am.
Do you think he's a heretic?
No, I don't at this point.
You don't? He says in his book that pagans and idolaters can be united to the church.
I've never read. What book is that?
I quote it right in an article. He says that pagans and idolaters can be united to the church. I mean, I guess
I've listened to a lot of his sermons, and I haven't heard him say anything to the fact where anyone can be saved in another religion. maybe I missed something.
Yeah, he told a friend of ours that Jews who reject Christ can be saved.
I don't know how that's possible.
Well, when you say that, that's not the question. Is that heretical?
Where is he coming from when he says that? I
that's baptism of desire.
I don't get it. It's not Catholic faith by desire. I can understand how if you are a sincere catechumen and you are, morally pure, you've kept your virginity since birth, you've never committed a mortal sin, you are absolutely, saintly, except you lack entrance into the church by water baptism. I believe it is plausible for God to supply the grace necessary for justification for that soul. I don't believe anyone who is outside the Catholic Church obstinately or even invincibly ignorant it can be saved, simply because I don't believe anyone is really invincibly ignorant outside the Catholic Church. Everyone I talk to that I ever run into has been, if not approached by me, approached by someone else about the Catholic faith and just purely rejects it.
Here's the quote on our website in my article on him. He says, if by some mystery of providence and predestination, pagans and idolaters are united to the soul of the church, and by desire to its body, it is in spite of their paganism and idolatry. So that's what they all believe.
What does he mean by in spite of their paganism and idolatry?
That the same thing Archbishop Lefebvre said. He said that people can be saved in other religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism.
Doesn't Fenton teach that it's a heresy to believe that one can be united to the church and to the body or to the soul and not the body?
Yeah, but that's just another one of these the multitude of contradictions. Okay, baptism of desire is redefined by every heretic you ask. Okay, like, we're having this discussion and you claim not to believe in invincible ignorance. Well, almost every other one does. Okay, Fenton contradicts Bellarmine, contradicts these other guys. You have the saints who favor baptism of blood contradicting those who favor baptism of desire. You have Fenton asserting the absolute stupidity that someone can be inside the church without being a member of the church.
Right.
That's how he tries to get around the dogmatic definitions, that no one can be saved outside the church. He says that you can be inside the church without being a member of the church. And in my article on that, I point out that membrum, if you break it down, and Fenton even admits it, it means part. So he's saying you can be inside the church without being a part of the church. Well, when you're separated, that means that you are not a part. You're outside. And I show, like Pope Leo XIII and others, to be separated is synonymous with being outside. It's complete nonsense. And I also show how numerous papal documents teach that membership is equivalent to being inside, that all the church in the church are members. Okay, so that's here's another point, but here's the one of many devastating points against baptism of desire, that baptism of desire advocates believe that you have to be born again to be saved. Okay, the Council of Trent says that unless they were born again in Christ, they never could be justified, and it is decree on justification. All right, like now, Father Linné and these others would say that means the spiritual rebirth. Okay, well, and they would say that it gives you the grace of water baptism without actually giving you the character of baptism. Well, the grace of baptism, what does it give you? It not only gives you forgiveness of all original actual sin, but also takes away all temporal punishment due to sin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So that a person wouldn't have to go to purgatory if he died right after baptism. Okay? Now, that's rebirth, and that's why the Council of Trent says that for those who are born again, God hates nothing, and there's nothing whatever to impede their entrance into heaven. Well, St. Alphonsus, who was an advocate of baptism of desire, and we point out was simply wrong on that issue, he says that baptism of desire forgives original sin, but does not take away the debt of punishment. In other words, it doesn't...
Right.
Well, that's a problem, because here's the problem. If St. Alphonsus is saying that baptism of desire does not take away the temporal punishment due to sin, he's admitting it's not really a baptism.
Right.
And further, how do you explain that you have to be born again? Okay, if you have to be born again, and everyone who's born again immediately goes to heaven, well, how is this person born again through baptism of desire, but doesn't go to heaven because he hasn't had the temporal punishment due to sin forgiven?
I guess I thought baptism of desire was more of a metaphor for the grace necessary for justification, not for total remission of all sins and punishment due to them.
Well, but that's the point, that first justification, the rebirth, that's what it is. That's what it is. That's the point, that's what Trent proves. Trent's decree on original sin and his decree on justification says that you must be reborn in Christ to be justified. Okay? So you must be reborn, and that the rebirth, for those who are reborn, goes straight to heaven if they die in that state.